So this is me. I'm Faisal Al Asfoor. I'm Chartered Fellow of the CIPD. Been in this particular field of AI and HR for about 3 years now, and just moving now to a bigger umbrella of corporate governance. My supervisor is Dr. Wufing Chen at Brunel, and Dr. Alam Hamdan here in Ahlia, and then Dr. Isra is our RDA. If we look into the topic, there are a lot of things that have been discussed since morning that have given you more or less an understanding on artificial intelligence. This is going to be mainly the context of what I'm going to discuss today. So we will have a bit of overview and a bit of understanding of the particular topic, go through some definitions, a little bit of theoretical underpinning. What are the theories that I've used in this particular scenario? Basic definitions: artificial intelligence is more of computers learn to mimic human intelligence in a certain way. If we look at also the definition of corporate governance, in a very simple term, it is basically trying to understand, having a framework to help board of directors understand how to take decisions in a very structured way, making it plain simple. Combining the two together gives us a sort of a transformative capability, which helps us automate complex context. It helps us also understand how to take decisions that are data-driven, and in the same time, making sure that the transparency is enhanced. The advantages of having this also, it helps us to identify market trends and mitigate risks in this particular scenario. What are the challenges? Obviously, with AI, it's trust, ethical consideration, and so on and so forth. It's too difficult to manage the two together. The research problem that I have identified is to increase or to look at the increased adoption of AI in corporate governance. There are very few. Just to do a sample before I got into the PhD, I've rang up a few people that I know that owns their own companies, large, small, or medium, and I realized at all these kind of levels, we've realized that there are a lot of people, they are still using and relying on data provided by the finance department. It's not automated. It's to the level of competency of the person providing it. Having AI to come in the picture, definitely you will have different implications on decision making. You will have also improved stakeholder engagement, and there will be some ethical consideration that we need to look at. If we look also into the literature acknowledgement, is that we then understand how much literature was made in this. Since this particular study is intended to be done for Bahrain, we realize that this will be a great input for many, many other research, because there are none. It's almost limited in this particular segment. If we look at the following, so the research objectives is to understand the role of AI in corporate governance, to understand the ethical consideration in this particular scenario, and to have a proposed conceptual model. If we look at the theories that I have relied on, so we've used the agency theory, the research dependency theory, the decision-making, and the stakeholders theory. With having all these theories to intertwine and talk to each other, then we have a solid background, or a solid foundation, rather, for the study as we keep going. If we step one step back a little bit and understand what are the components of AI, what do we need to have in place in order to make sure that AI functions properly? So the very obvious thing that we should have is machine learning. Then we will have different inputs from different places. So we'll have computer vision, speech recognition, augmented reality, LLMs, which is large language models, very familiarized by ChatGPT and Copilot, and you will have neural network. If we look at the same thing also in corporate governance, in order to understand its components also, we have 4 major elements that we have done. CEO duality, we have board of directors, shareholders, and risk management. And again, there are a lot of details underneath each. If we look at what we have here, we've looked at the elements of corporate governance, understood the different frameworks that they can come in. So we have the main framework is to have a bit of consideration of the commercial desirability, to look into an understanding whether the technological viability, because at the end of the day, this has to come to tangible benefits to many of the stakeholders involved. If we look at the AI utilization on decision making, it will help such board members, stakeholders, or anyone in between take data-driven decisions and data-driven analysis rather than having basic intuitions or old style calculated kind of figures. We look also in this particular scenario, the taxonomy, pointers not pointing, the taxonomy of AI technologies also to understand the level of technology, how much they should be let go alone or how much of it should be supervised. If we keep going further to try to understand, so the framework that we need to look at here with the technological underpinning in order to have a solid foundation is to have integration of key theories. So we take the different theories that we've discussed earlier, try to understand the similarities, seeing if there are any patterns, and then build that as solid foundation. If we look at the agency theory, which is also the terms of agent and principal conflict that keeps happening all the time, so we need to understand where do we fit there. The AI role in addressing the agency theory problem, also we need to understand whether that actually helps us understand it or not. It's more of a milestone to look at. And then we need to see the concerns with AI integration. If we keep going further, we then understand the implications for corporate governance research itself. Okay, so we look at the different opportunities, then it gives us, it helps the board, AI can enhance board oversight, it can refine the decision-making process and improve stakeholders' engagement. Then if we look at transparency, then we have aligning the corporate structures with the societal expectation. And then if we look at the challenges of AI integration, it will help us address the algorithmic AI biases that is AI currently known for. So along with the ethical uses as well. So as I keep reading and started to get into the literature, I've recognized the last 2 points seem to be highlighted the most in most literatures. Whether it's there are AI can be biased, AI can be, the privacy can be an issue, transparency can be an issue, and how to link the two together without actually feeling you no longer have ownership of the data itself. A scary thing is, yesterday in the office, we were doing a small trial. I just put in ChatGPT, who is Faisal Al Asfoor? It brought my picture. It brought a background of my relationship with Ahlia, with Michael Meyer and Sons, and so on and so forth. So a lot of that data is out there. Now, is it because I'm logged into my account and I fed it this information, or is it because it's already uploaded and it knows about it? If we look into the particular study, here, yep. So we have the ethical framework, because that eventually needs to be looked at before we get into the study itself. There are a couple of components to look at. So one is to ensure that organizations are guided very carefully on how do they collect data, how do they process the data, how do they share data, and have AI integration as well. We look at the moral implications on the decisions, because sometimes as humans, we have intuition that goes against all the data that we have. We take that intuition, and that intuition happens to be correct. Yeah, a lot of emotional-based decisions, such as HR, for example. That's one very key component. Marketing, for example. These are very dependent on human intuitions. If we look at the accountability as well, making sure that we set a framework to make sure that AI is actually accountable, or the user is accountable to a certain degree. Ethical framework as well, and to see whether there is any alignment between the two. If we look at the components of the conceptual model, which I am still developing, so this is not final, it's just being refined. The first thing I wanted to see is to have clear interaction between the different theories. There are a lot of theories, very relevant for corporate governance, very relevant having used AI in corporate governance. We want to see the similarities when we want to use them as one of the points to look at. Similar thing goes to the concerns as well, which is the ethical concerns, fairness, transparency, and accountability. If we look at the core dimensions, so we have a few things to look at here. The core dimensions in AI in corporate governance is to have AI-driven mechanism in corporate governance, theoretical foundation, ethical consideration, enhancing transparency, improving decision-making, and stakeholder engagement via AI. So there are a lot of things that I am assuming will then get mixed with each other. If we look at the research implications, we need to see what is the practical applications of AI in corporate governance, the empirical validation through case studies. So we need to see whether it actually works or not, and the policy development for AI. To look at what's next, okay, how do we go forward? First of all, we'd like to go into the qualitative approach. We would like to meet these stakeholders. These are board members, policymakers, key people within different organizations, very senior people. They will not fill a survey. Okay, you get them, you manage to get an appointment, you sit in front of them, ask them the questions, have it recorded, go back, analyze, and make sure then you have the right, you capture such insights. I am a very strong believer of having sometimes between a question to another, a comment that can be more valuable than the answer itself. Then we look at the sampling. So we will have as much as possible an individual from different sector in order to make sure that this is inclusive and this is holistic within the Kingdom of Bahrain. This would include policy makers, board of directors, organizational leaders, could be CEOs and top presidents, and so on and so forth. We will look at semi-structured interviews, and we will have participants share their nuanced perspective in this. Once all of that is done, we will try to identify patterns, see if there are any themes and relations between things, and obviously not forgetting the element of ethical practices. If we conclude, just having wrapped up all this vast information in 15-minute presentation, which I was very skeptical because I initially started with 34 slides, then came down to 17. Now I'm realizing it's actually still very much data for a short while. We have a transformative opportunity to have AI helping corporate governance. Then we have all these theories that helps making sure that happens. Then we have the conceptual model that will help address the gap that is available in the literature. And then with looking at the ethical considerations, then we look at what is the actual contribution to the corporate governance. And that's it from my side.